going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe
and Amy
Review, and this is our show that we haven't done in a long time, and you can tell because I messed up the intro again. It happens, and it has been a little bit, but we are super happy to be back. This is our show where we review the Magic stories, and this week we are continuing our reviews of the Battle for Zendikar / now Oath of the Gatewatch stories, as we have been doing when we were inspired to do so by our returning to Zendikar in Zendikar Rising. Yeah, that's how long ago we started.
A million years ago.
Mm-hmm. It really was, or at least again, it feels that way. Welcome to a pandemic.
But hey, I mean, they haven't given us stories since then to review, so...
Since Zendikar Rising, they have. We've done Strixhaven.
No, I mean, you know.
It's been a bit.
Right.
It's been a bit. I'm hoping...
We're filling the time with this.
I'm actually hoping they do some Innistrad ones, because right after these stories, right, Zendikar and Oath of the Gatewatch, we went to Innistrad. And those were our first stories that we ever did in JARs.
Right.
So, you know, returning to Innistrad, I think would be really sweet in the two sets that we're doing so. And I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the stories for that, because we already saw the stories that they did for Zendikar. So, should be interesting.
It'll really be full circle for us to kind of, when we returned to Zendikar, do these stories again, and then when we return to Innistrad, do those stories. It'll be cool. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it if that is something that they choose to do. The big day of announcements is like next week, I think. I have it written on the calendar, but yeah, I think it's next week. And so if that's the case, that's typically when they're like, oh, by the way, and there are also stories, right? Because they just kind of mention it as an afterthought, along with lots and lots of. Although I think this is previews of what's to come next year, so maybe not. I don't know. But we will be like keeping abreast of that, and we'll let you know the next time we do JaAR. Hey, before we start, this week's story, by the way, is Up in Flames by Doug Beyer. And before we get into this story, please don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell.
Yes.
It helps us out. Thank you. It helps us out immensely. We really appreciate it. It also helps you, because you will get, once you ring that bell and get notifications, you will receive those notifications whenever we go live. Which we do twice a week, every Monday and Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on this channel. On Mondays, we play MTG Arena, which, if you enjoy Magic the Gathering, we play Arena on Mondays. And on Fridays, so the day after this video is coming out, we play video games. And when we are posting this video, we are very near to the end of Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. We have played through all 6, count them 6, of the PlayStation 2 Dragon Ball Z Budokai franchise, and we are on the 6th and final, and we are going to finish the story mode this week, and then move on to a couple of solo player things, or first player things, and then when we are done with that, we have other things that we're super looking forward to. But we're not ready to announce them yet here, but if you come to the stream and you ask nicely, maybe we'll have some loose lips and be able to tell you. Exactly. But you have to be here to find out, and the best way to find out is to, like I said, subscribe, ring that bell. You'll also get notifications whenever any of our videos come out as well, and we have openings every Monday. We just finished, I don't know if I'll be able to reach over to it. Hey, I did it. We just finished our Strixhaven, I know, older set, but we were doing a lot of different openings, but we finished our Strixhaven Wife Finance Huz Bundle Battle. No, we will never apologize for the name. A Wife Finance Huz Bundle Battle where we open our bundles, one each, and we see who gets more value. And if you want to find out who won, you can go check that video out, and it's probably going to be right up there. It'll probably be linked at the end as well, just in case you forget, but otherwise feel free to click that link or tap that link, and you can follow it and check that out for yourself. It was close.
Oh, yeah.
So if that's something you're interested in, go check it out. But without further ado, let's move on to this story. Up in Flames by Doug Beyer. There is, I guess my quick review at the top, as we tend to do, is this story was great, and you should go read it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, go ahead. You next.
Doug Beyer. Great author. Enough said.
Fair enough.
Read it.
Yeah, it was very good. I really enjoyed it. So I guess we always say our quick review at the top, just in case you want to go read the story for yourself, and then come back here and listen to our review, just because we're not worried about spoilers. We're reading it, or we're reviewing it as if you know what happened,
right.
One way or the other, or if you don't care about spoilers. But we're not really going to be summarizing it in the best way, because that's just not how we do things here. But we have tried to help you out as much as possible. Instead of having to search Up in Flames by Doug Beyer, or going to Wizard's website where it may or may not work on the story page, we have linked it for you. It is the top link in the description down below. Will take you to this story for yourself. To remove as many barriers as possible. If you have the time and you're interested, go click that link and go read the story for yourself.
Yes.
And so, for those who don't care about spoilers, or have already gone to peruse through it, our full review, first of all, this story was, it's funny, we had talked about, you had asked me kind of how long the story was, and I mentioned that it was long enough, but it felt
quick.
Very quickly, which is nice, because I think it still got across what it needed to get across.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have wanted a ton more, necessarily, where I was sitting there at the end like, it's over already. Like, it tied together nicely, and it felt pretty good.
It was a long-form story.
Yeah.
But it felt like a short story, like a typical short story, in that it was concise. It gave good description, but it didn't kind of ramble on or go like over the top with the description.
Yeah.
It was exactly what you needed the story to be.
Yeah.
So I struggle because I feel like there's not a lot to say about it.
I'll agree with that.
Other than that, it's a good one to read, and that there doesn't need to be a lot to say about it.
Right.
It speaks for itself.
Right. And I mean, the descriptions of the fighting and the different styles and stuff, because if you're unaware, this is Chandra attempting to save Nisha, Jace, and Gideon from Obnixilis and the 3 Kozilek spawn that he had kind of convinced to work for him. And it works, kind of. Like, as Obnixilis says, he's like, well, you defeated me. He's like, if that was your goal, you did it. Congratulations. But also...
you still lost, because this whole planet's getting devoured.
And then he planeswalks away. And
see you bye.
And vows vengeance against them, which...
Yeah.
The next time he sees them, to my knowledge, is in War of the Spark, where he just I forget exactly who
doesn't do
went
shit.
there. No, because it was they were on Amonkhet, and he helped but didn't help. But so maybe that comes back someday. But at this point,
who knows?
Is anybody going to remember? This was, oh god, this was. I think this story was from January of 2006.
Yeah.
No, that's not possible, is it?
Well, whatever it was. He would come back, try to get vengeance on them, and everyone reading the story would sit there going, why does he hate them again?
Yeah, it couldn't be 2006. It definitely couldn't be 2006.
Why is he so mad at them?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I don't remember exactly when it was from.
This is why.
I want to say 2016, 2015. I don't remember.
It was a long
I
time
apologize. But yeah, it was from such a long time ago now, and especially as we said, some people with the pandemic brain, not remembering the progression of time. Yes, it was 2016. Thank you.
I pointed at an old note.
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's yeah. No. So it's earlier than 2016. Or no, I guess it's the beginning of, yeah. So it's 2016. I was right. It's January of 2016. Okay. I just forgot the 1. I said 2006. But yeah. So it, now that we've talked about that for entirely too long. Sorry. It was, I mean, what is that? 5 years ago at this point? Are people really going to remember that story from 5 years ago? There are absolutely people. And if you're watching this, maybe you just are those people, right? You're hardcore Vorthos, and you do remember them all, and that's fantastic.
Hashtag Vorthos Pride.
We'll get there later. But yes, remembering those is important. But the fact that we've gone through two major changes to the Magic story team since this story was written. Is that thread really going to be tied up the next time we see Ob Nixilis?
Who knows?
Who the hell knows? I mean, the Gatewatch isn't even around anymore.
Thread's really going to be tied up.
But the Gatewatch isn't really even around anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it'll be intriguing to see where that goes if it's something that's actually done.
Right.
One thing that I enjoyed, and kind of the only note that I wrote for like this whole story, because what else?
Wow.
Like it's just there's a big fight with Ob Nixilis. It was very well written, very well detailed, but to talk about it any further than that would be like talking about the individual minutia of like, and then it was cool when she talked about the this thing and the throwing the this fire, and it's kind of tough to like break down that fight scene more than it was very good, it was very descriptive, it really gave you like a sense of place so that you could like, you know, be like, oh wow, you know, in my mind I can visualize, okay, they're over there now and then they go over here and now they're doing this. And
you were in that fight. And
it gave you that real sense of helplessness for Chandra, which is great. I mean, you want that. You don't want Chandra to just show up, be able to kill everything, and then, oh, I saved them all, moving on.
Right.
Like, no, you want it to look like, oh my god, she's really going to lose. Or if you want to be meta about it, because I tend to do that with stories a lot, right? She's the hero. So is she going to die and then also Nissa, Gideon, and Jace all die? No, obviously not, from Ob Nixilis at least. Right, you at least wait until it's the big Eldrazi Titans and they fight valiantly and lose, or Nikki B up there, you know, and he takes them down. But you're not just going to have Ob Nixilis in this random story 3 or 4 before the end, 3 or 4 weeks before the final story. Ob Nixilis just takes them all down and kills them all. So
especially when Chandra arrives isn't even aware of the reason why Ob Nixilis is there.
Yep. And doesn't
like
even...
Nissa knows the story because she had a whole conversation with him about it.
Right.
But nobody else really did.
Yeah, and at this point, Chandra doesn't even know Nissa yet in this story. She meets her at the end, technically.
That's what I wanted to talk about with this story. Is like, this is the first time Chandra meets Nissa. And when people talk about the relationship that Nissa and Chandra had prior to it being retconned, I never felt like it really was like that romantic a relationship.
Okay.
But I also just maybe wasn't remembering it clearly enough. And this is a great sort of like starting point where like from here out, I can like pay more attention to that. Mm-hmm. So I actually get a sense of not just why they were so upset about the retcon, but also like a relationship between two characters that I really love.
Sure.
So, this story was a nice like jumping off point, you know, the very beginning where they met. Because there actually was a few moments in the descriptions here of Nissa particularly, where like it's kind of from Chandra's point of view. So I think when I first heard this story, I think I just thought, oh my god, Nissa's so cool. Right? But I thought, oh my god, Nissa's so cool because of Chandra's interpretation of Nissa, right? Like the way they interacted with one another, what Chandra felt when Nissa touched her, the way Nissa looked to Chandra, and sort of the conclusion she was able to draw from that. Because I think in the way that it's described almost as though it's not from Chandra's point of view.
Okay.
So I think my first time hearing it, I just thought, wow, okay, this Nissa person is like amazing, and I already knew Nissa was amazing.
Because we'd read these stories and heard all about her.
Right. And I loved her already by then.
Yeah.
But reading it a second time really made a difference because I was paying attention to that. I got to see, no, this is what Chandra thinks when she sees Nissa, feels Nissa touch her, talks to her and interacts with her. So it was really cool because they like said how beautiful she was with like her like deep, you know,
solid
pools
blue
of
eyes,
deep pools
green.
of green eyes.
Sorry,
and like I can't remember the wording for like what happened when she touched her, and I was like, did she actually heal her? Like
yeah, it was like
a healing.
It was like soft. It was a soft touch that like brought her warmth and comfort or something like that.
Yeah, and then I was like, or maybe it's just because Nissa did so much to like teach Chandra how to like meditate and like control her emotions better.
Well, not yet.
I know.
Okay.
But since they go on to do that, those two characters, maybe this was sort of like the first point where Nissa interacted with Chandra in a way that like was like a calming energy that was noticeably affecting Chandra enough for it to be mentioned either by Chandra or by the narrator or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and it was something that I noticed as well, absolutely. And you know, the retcon that Amy's talking about, if people are unaware, is that there were a lot of indications past this point that Chandra and Nissa were forming some form of a relationship or were interested in one another. And in War of the Spark Forsaken, that relationship was heavily retconned to basically say, well, Chandra was never really gay. She always just liked guys and decidedly male types. And a lot of people were very upset by that because it was just...
Well, because for one thing, that's just offensive to say in the first place. And then for another thing, you know, they were like, no, she was in a relationship with Nissa, what the hell?
Right. And then to have their apology that they're being wizards, to have Wizards' apology about that come out but not be available in certain countries that wouldn't have been okay with there being any implications of a romantic relationship between two women, kind of indicated to us, to many, why that relationship was retconned in the way that it was. But
we don't want to lose money from China and Russia and wherever else.
Right. But
oh, boo-hoo.
Must bow to those governmental corporate overlords.
Representation isn't important, right? Fuck it.
I will say they have since arguably done better.
Yes, agreed.
So I can at least
from
say
the
that.
Representation standpoint. I don't know about storytelling standpoint, but from a representation standpoint, they have.
Or at least attempted to, based on the class of people or group of people that they have hired to tell their stories in most recent times. And you're more than welcome to leave your thoughts on that in the comments below.
Please.
Absolutely. With anything that we say, we would always love to hear from you. But I found it interesting, right? The authors seemed to make it relatively clear here that, at least to me, and maybe it's because I was looking for it, and maybe you have different opinions and are more than welcome to bounce those off of me in the comments as well. But notice the descriptions that were used in this story for Chandra talking about Nissa, and versus how she talked about Gideon, who was the person that they tried to say was actually Chandra's love interest, right? Types like Gideon, he's the decidedly male type, you know, the strong and the muscular and manly and whatever. Yeah. So, but her descriptions of Gideon in this story were kind of non-existent, whereas for Nissa, they were plentiful. Now, you could say that it's because it's first impressions and she already knows Gideon.
Right.
And her kind of calling out to him when Nixilis has him by the throat and is lifting him up in the air, and she hears bones crunching and all this other stuff, and she's carrying his buckler. Like, all of that could be used to indicate that she's actually interested in him, but it seemed to me that at least the seeds of Nissa and Chandra were planted starting here, since this is the first time they met. And the other thing is, she's also allowed to have feelings for both of them and, like, explore that for herself and in herself. So...
Yeah, but I would say, like, the descriptions in this story kind of lead me down the path of believing that her relationship with Gideon is more, like, brother-sisterly.
Yeah.
And her relationship with Nissa is, wow, she's hot.
Yeah, yeah. More struck by her in that way. Absolutely. Yeah, I can absolutely agree with that and see that.
Okay. Question, though.
Yeah.
With his invulnerability, why does Gideon need a buckler?
How do you mean?
Like, it's a shield.
Sure. But it's a buckler, so it's small. And his, whatchamacallit? His magic still, like, takes him energy to use.
Oh.
So, like, going like this to block a strike from a sword is a hell of a lot easier than, like, putting up a shield over this entire part of your body that... Because he's talked about, like, the stories have talked about the fact that, like, he can't just put up the shield of invulnerability over his entire body and just walk around. Like,
I thought he just, like, had it.
The shield? The invulnerability?
Yeah.
No.
I thought it was just, like, a thing.
No, he has to choose to
bring
that up wherever he... Yeah. Yeah, he chooses to... It's, not lithomancy, that's the... Hieromancy. Yeah. It's the law magic. So
I didn't realize that was the hieromancy.
Yes.
Okay.
And so because he is such a good tactician and a good fighter, he will see, oh, okay, there's an attack coming in this way, I can just put it up right here and block it immediately and I'm fine. Oh, he's going to punch me over here, I'll just put it up here. Because if somebody was less experienced, they'd just be like, oh god, it's going to hit me, and just put it up over their entire body, exhaust themselves in 5 seconds.
Energy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
Speaking of the games that we've been playing, it's very Dragon Ball Z, where Goku, you know, when he goes Super Saiyan 3, he's like, well, I can't do this for very long, and then kind of pops back down to just regular black hair after a while, because it burns out his body too quickly. So, yeah.
So what's the point in doing it in the first place?
I mean, because it boosts your power immensely as you do it. So if you're able to boost your power immensely and then beat your opponent in 5 minutes, that's great. Whereas in your lower form, you would either not be able to do it, or it would take you like an hour, right? You just boost your power 3 times over, or 5 times over, whatever.
I think stamina is better than power, but, you know.
Anyway, moving right along. The only thing I wanted to talk about, the note that I still haven't gotten to, which is totally fine, but no. I'm not upset at all. I'm really not, because it's not that important. What we talked about was much more important than this. I just thought it was really fun that, again, this is, back in the day, Chandra. So she is impetuous, and she works off of her anger alone, right? The anger fuels me, the pain fuels me. That's what she was using to create her fire magic. And meanwhile, the whole time, or multiple times, she's talking about her parents, and seeing her parents, and seeing them die in front of her, and, you know, them popping up in her brain at inopportune times that she wasn't expecting or wanting or prepared for.
Right.
And the anger when she's fighting Nixilis is what she's using for that fight. Well, that's old Chandra, right? Not that won't come out occasionally nowadays, but after training more with Jaya during Dominaria stories, in the lead up to War of the Spark, she kind of curbed all of that and was able to better internalize her abilities, regulate her emotions, again, also with the help of Nissa, and channel her power to be more effective.
Right.
Excuse me. But this story...
Again, stamina better than power.
Yeah.
So she's able to, like, draw it out and siphon it in a controlled manner, as opposed to just being like bursts of this and that because her anger or pain or emotions are essentially getting the better of her.
Right. And or just straight cockiness in general of being like, well, I'm super powerful, I'm a fire mage, I'm just going to burn you, so let me put all my power into one hit on you, and oops, you dodged it, well, I'm out. Like, you know.
Goodbye.
More than one way to skin a cat, but that ain't it. So, and so it was great, though, to see her being like fly by the seat of her pants again, just because that was always fun. It's obviously not tactically beneficial.
Right.
But it's funny and enjoyable to see.
Relatable.
Right. And so there's that moment of Chandra seeing the Eldrazi swarm and saying to herself, oh, I can't beat all those Eldrazi.
Right.
I'll just keep going. And a la the Walking Dead television show, right? If you lead away a couple of zombies and then more zombies come and more, then it's just a swarm of zombies or a horde of zombies. So she is leading away this swarm, and then she ignites herself massively and runs, leaving a trail behind her and just burning up a ton of the Eldrazi behind her.
Right.
Where she then says, I wrote this out, that's right, I'm a glorious beacon of mana and light, you bastards.
I love it.
Amazing.
Fucking awesome.
Because, you know, you gotta love yourself first. And so, props to Chandra for loving herself. Again, not the smartest thing in the world, but more power to you, right? What else can I say?
Well, you know me, I'm gonna find a way to relate this to trauma. You know,
sure.
She, you know, lost both of her parents, and now she lives her life in pain and grief and anger, and she's, like you said, very impetuous.
Right.
And that's kind of what happens when you're traumatized, is you lose your ability to control your emotions and stay as level-headed as you need to in a stressful situation. Or for some of us, in a less stressful situation. Stressful situations sometimes make it easier for you to sort of lock in and focus and do what you need to do. And a less stressful situation makes you go nuts. So it depends on the person. But it's interesting that you say what you just said. What did you just say? I lost it now.
What, the impetuousness?
No.
You know I'm not good at that. I forget things very easily.
Well.
I say it and then it's gone. It doesn't stay up here. Once it comes down to this point, I just fire it off and it never stays where it came from. It's not a copy paste, it's a cut and paste. Yeah. It's gone. I'm so sorry.
So when you do stuff like that, or when you're in that sort of headspace often or all the time, you have to work to get to a point of being able to like be okay, stay level-headed, and not let your emotions get the better of you. And so that work she did with JaAR, mm-hmm. and she did with Nisha, where they really taught her like how to hone her abilities and stuff. It, like you said, it's cool to see her at this point in time, sort of prior to, because in later stories they do a really great job of like putting you in her head, and you get to like hear her thoughts.
Yeah.
That are like
they're manic as hell.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And it's perfect. It's perfect. As someone who has been through trauma and who has experienced my central nervous system being constantly stimulated and like never being able to get out of that like fight or flight state. The descriptions later on that they do, and the like essentially dialogue, but it's all in her head, is so spot on. It's so perfect. It's so real. And like I said before, relatable. And this is kind of like easing you into that, I think.
Right.
So we haven't reached that point yet, but I think we're getting to see like the beginnings of that. And it's like, it's going to ease us into a point where we experience that and it's at its fullest. And that was really fun for me because it's so relatable for me. For other people, it was probably horrible. They probably read it and they were like, oh my God, what is wrong with this girl? What the hell? I can't understand her, you know?
She was very rambly. If you didn't read those stories or you don't remember what Amy's talking about, very rambly and very like, I'm talking about this and now I'm talking about this and what about this and now about this and now we're going over here and like, yes, like you're saying, like it's just like, holy shit, take a mental breath, girl, god damn.
Yeah, but it's very realistic. Yeah. And it was easy enough for you to read because you're used to dealing with me, who is like that.
Well, and I'm able to process stuff like that very quickly as well. Yeah. Whether that's through training or
practice
or just right, or just a skill that I've always had.
But yes, so practice makes perfect for that, but also practice makes perfect to like clear your mind and focus and move forward and do what you have to do. And it was the like positive self-talk.
Okay.
The positive self-talk where she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a beacon of light.
I'm a glorious beacon of mana and light, you bastards."
Yeah. So like part of the work of that is positive self-talk. Even if it has curses in it, that's okay.
Sure. She's calling somebody else bastards, right? So it's still positive for herself.
Right, exactly. You know, so that anger's still a little bit there. But she's recognizing that she is great. And that's part of the work. You gotta do that. You gotta train yourself to remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a pretty good place to call it, unless you had more to talk about.
No.
This was a great one. If you have opinions comparing or contrasting with ours,
please leave it in the comments.
As always, we would love to hear from you. Doing that, and doing whatever I said earlier, because again, cut and paste. Doing whatever I said earlier that also prompted Amy to do this is a great way to show off our...
Hashtag Vorthos Pride.
That's the worst. The worst one I've ever done.
It's fine.
So bad.
Guys, let them know in the comments if you care.
There you go. That's a good one as well. Oh my God. I'm going to go to bed. So that is going to be the end of this particular episode. I'm not. We're going to be up doing other things. But that is going to be the end of this particular episode. I really do want to thank you all so very much for watching. Please don't forget, we have other channels as well. Links down in the description box below, along with the link to this story. You can go check that out. Don't forget, yes, subscribing, ring the bell, super helpful. Check out our socials, also linked down below as well. We'll be back with another one of these when we're back with another one of these. I'd like to say it's next week, but then I could be lying to you and I'd feel bad about it. When we can get out a new episode, we will do so. And then whatever the announcement is that is coming, if it refers to more stories, when you see us, we will tell you what we're doing about those stories, because God knows when they're doing 2 a week and they do 3 in the first 5 days, it's insane. But we try to do catch up as best we can.
Yeah.
So that we can get our reviews of new stories out to you as promptly as possible, because that was the whole reason why we do these shows on Thursdays.
Right.
Is because the new stories came out on Wednesdays, and so we wanted to get these out to you immediately afterwards. And then Wizards was like, "Oh, you want to do that, huh? Well, then there's another one on Friday." And I'm like, "Well, we're not putting shit out on Saturday, Wizards, so thanks, I guess." But anyway.
Yeah. I think they just kind of threw their hands in the air, to be honest with you, but that's another story for another time.
It's neither here nor there. We are done with this week. We will be back soon, and obviously we will have more content besides JaAR, even if JaAR is not here, in the coming weeks, in the coming days, because we still have more streams every Monday and Friday, as I said, openings every Monday, so stay tuned for that. But for now, from us here at the Geek for All family of channels, I have been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.